I'm gonna hypothetically make a Mario Kart game. Not just any old Mario Kart game, but one that I can look at and go, dang, who's the handsome developer that made this masterpiece? To which I would hear my own voice respond, dang, that was me who made that masterpiece. So let's run under the assumption that I was appointed director of this game and I have a budget that isn't infinite, so for example I can't add all 136 courses from past Mario Karts into one title because that would be unreasonable from a development standpoint, and instead have to narrow it down to what the best courses are. This way, the game won't have any fluff and it'll retain its own unique vision. Let's get started. Graphics are the levels of pixelated detail found in a game. The higher the resolution and level of detail, the better the graphics. It's something we can measure objectively. Art style is how a game chooses to display its world through things like body proportions, colors, shading, and lighting. It's something that's completely up to one's tastes. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has the best graphics out of any Mario Kart. Its resolution is 1080p HD and it runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. However, its art style falls flat. Yes, it's clean and realistic, but that's precisely what's wrong. It borders too much on real life, and that takes away from the charming, cartoony aesthetic that Mario is known for. Compare it to that of Mario Kart Double Dash, which fully captures what Mario's world is about through its use of vibrant colors that contrast one another and manage to pop out at you. Tons of environmental set pieces have faces, which is a long-running theme of the Mario franchise, and you really get the sense this fictional world is alive and thriving, whereas with Deluxe, you get the sense that Mario and gang were just pulled into our world, which makes it lose that fictional flair. For the new title, I'll take on Double Dash's art style and brandish it with 1080p resolution and the ability to run at 60 frames per second. I also need to make sure that the character models have a higher polygon count so they look smoother around the edges instead of flat and blocky, a problem that's noticeable when you run games like Double Dash and Mario Kart Wii at high settings. Now it's time to craft the roster. Deluxe will be the base for this section. I'll only cut the characters I legitimately feel the game would be better without. Tanuki Mario and Cat Peach are out of here. Their concepts don't appeal to me, and it doesn't help that Super Mario 3D World left a bad taste in my mouth. Metal Mario and Pink Gold Peach work because they complete a trifecta. You can play as Mario or Peach as a lightweight, medium weight, or heavyweight character. Dry Bowser's cool too, since he's been in tons of games and is an awesome idea for what Bowser would look like in Dry Bones form. I'm cutting every character that isn't from the Mario universe. This is Mario Kart, not Nintendo Kart. If that's going to be done, it needs to be done right with a bunch of characters from other franchises being represented by their own courses and items. None of this wishy-washy garbage. Let's add back some characters from past titles that were unfairly cut. Birdo, Diddy Kong, Koopa Paratroopa, and Petey Piranha. No Funky Kong or Rob because they aren't really a part of the Mario universe. Even though Diddy's from the Donkey Kong series, he works because he's been in so many titles with other Mario characters. Now for some new additions. Cappy from Super Mario Odyssey, not the form he takes as Mario's hat, but what he looks like naturally. Dimentio from the Paper Mario series, a 3D model would suffice. His tricks would include switching between his 2D and 3D form. Fawful from the Mario and Luigi series. Hammer Bro, he'd have 3 skins total, Hammer Bro, Boomerang Bro, and Fire Bro. King Bob-omb from Super Mario 64, this would be pretty sick actually. Magic Koopa, or Kamek if you prefer, he'd have a bunch of different colored skins like Shy Guy, Yoshi, and Toad. Pauline, Toadsworth, Professor E. Gadd, Nokis and Piantas, they'd also have their own different colored skins. And Flood from Super Mario Sunshine, yeah, you heard me right. He's able to move a little on his own in that game, so drop him in a cart and he'll be good to go. I don't care how ridiculous that looks, it'd be awesome. That caps off our roster at a solid 50. For smaller details, Toad will have a Captain Toad skin, and King Boo will have a skin that resembles his Luigi's Mansion design. Also, Mario's voice from Deluxe sounds way too high-pitched. Listen to this. Now listen to this. It is so much better. Lastly, when choosing your character, you won't see them in a vehicle. They'll be completely separate and standing on their own like in Double Dash and Wii. I'm including customizable carts, bikes, and ATVs to accommodate for a variety of playstyles and looks. Remember when I talked about Deluxe's art style and how I thought its realism didn't fit in the Mario universe? Well, vehicles from the real world really don't fit in the Mario universe. This has got to be one of my least favorite things Nintendo has ever done, period. It makes me want to puke, not keeping them. No use having these vehicles in here either if I've already cut the characters that they're meant to represent. These carts from Mario Kart DS and Double Dash are great. You can tell that whoever worked on them had a vision in mind and just went for it, so they all return. We still need to decide how many characters will ride on each vehicle, since that could affect how big each vehicle needs to be. We could have 2 per vehicle like Double Dash, or 1 per vehicle like in every other title. 2 characters on one bike together would look weird, especially when you consider pairings like Bowser and Baby Mario. Every vehicle in the game would have to be made larger in order to free up space for 2 characters. Double Dash didn't have this problem because it only allowed certain characters to drive certain vehicles based on how big they were. That's a restriction I don't want to have, so 1 per vehicle it is. Grand Prix. Here we'll have 50cc, 100cc, 150cc, and 200cc. Mirror mode will be replaced with reverse mode. Here you'll race through the courses backwards. This way you'll still receive double the courses, but instead of seeing mirrored versions of them, which isn't all that exciting, you'll experience a completely new perspective of them that's a lot more interesting. They're not all naturally designed to allow you to drive through them backwards, so they'll be tweaked to make it possible just for this mode, whether it be by adding boost pads, gliding sections, or a small edit to the course itself. Also, you'll be able to play reverse mode on every single speed as opposed to strictly 150cc. It won't have its own Grand Prix cup. Alrighty, there will be 48 courses total, contained by 12 cups. Let's start with our first 8. Now normally, cups are divided by new and retro courses, but since all courses here are going to be retro, there's going to be a different divide between them. Mushroom, Flower, Star, and Special cups will be known as the modern cups. They'll have features from the most recent Mario Karts, such as anti-gravity, gliding, and underwater driving. Shell, Banana, Leaf, and Lightning cups will be known as the classic cups. They won't have vehicle transformations at all. As I decide what courses will be in each cup, keep in mind that cups increase in difficulty, so the courses will reflect that. Any courses not chosen most likely don't appeal to me on a conceptual and/or visual level. There are plenty of remakes for courses. You'll know which version I prefer based on what footage I use. There may be times where I combine both versions of a course to create an even better one. No matter what I do though, I'll always tag which game the course originated from. Lastly, try to envision all of these courses in the Double Dash art style. Mushroom Cup. Since these are the first few courses of the modern cups, we need to teach players the mechanics that they're going to be seeing later on. So keeping that in mind, we'll start off with Mario Kart Stadium as to introduce the main mechanic, anti-gravity, followed up by the serene Peach Beach with an added underwater section replacing this part of the course to show off underwater driving. Mushroom Gorge can be edited to include blue mushrooms that activate gliding sections. Now that we've presented the 3 core mechanics players will see, we can throw in Toad's Turnpike, since it has unique obstacles in the form of cars and the usage of anti-gravity along the walls that wasn't present in Mario Kart Stadium. Flower Cup. Thwomp Ruins has ancient scenery that inspires wonder. It'd be contrasted by the upbeat and wacky Coconut Mall, edited to include anti-gravity walls here and a gliding section here. The energy continues into Music Park, which is a fantastic idea that bounces off the walls. Wario's gold mine will close it off, and it's great because you just expect Wario to have some kind of place like this to himself. Star Cup. Koopa Cape has a whole rushing river that streamlines off a cliff into a pipe, which is awesome. In this version, that pipe will be flooded as to allow for an underwater section. Electrodrome will spike up the hype in colors just to make players relax when they enter Maple Treeway, which will have an added gliding section here that lasts all the way to the net. For a great finish of the cup, we'll set Mount Wario, a behemoth of a course that's a fitting end. Special Cup. Cloudtop Cruise gives off a Super Mario Galaxy vibe, which feels great. Pairing that with the ingenious design of Yoshi's Circuit makes these 2 courses a fantastic start to the cup. Bowser's Castle has an enormous molten Bowser that punches the roads as its main set piece. It's probably the coolest thing I've seen in any Mario game, and what better way to end it off than at Rainbow Road. Mario Kart 8 had it down for this cup. We just substituted Bone Dry Ruins for the much more likable Yoshi Circuit. Also, Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road are almost always the last 2 courses in the special cups for every single Mario Kart game. Gotta hold up that tradition. Shell Cup. Luigi's Circuit is a great opener. It's simple and straightforward, yet it's unique because players can crash into each other going opposite directions if they're far enough apart. Speaking of obstacles, Moo Moo Meadows has tons of cows walking in the middle of the road, which serves as some comedic relief, but it's not nearly as entertaining as the absolute mayhem that is Baby Park. Luigi's Mansion was a great idea for a course, but it was executed poorly since you spent most of your time outside the mansion. Instead, players would be driving in the mansion through tons of rooms as they ascend up more and more floors. They can then drive off the balcony and loop back around. Not to mention Egad's hut, which should be next to Luigi's Mansion but wasn't in this course, is going to be from now on. Banana Cup. Donut Plains is a solid feels-good course, just like Royal Raceway, a total classic that should never go away. It'll keep the new details Deluxe added, but it'll let players enter the castle courtyard like the 64 version. Said courtyard should only be closed off when playing online with random people so races actually finish. Daisy Cruiser. Having a go-kart race on a cruise ship is an awesome concept, but you know what else is awesome? Waluigi Stadium. If one stadium was going to be included, it had to be this one. It really captures the essence of Waluigi, what with the craziness that ensues from all these obstacles and sharp turns. Leaf Cup. Sherbert Land has players racing on both ice and snow, and it has these freezies that'll make you feel like you're frozen in time, is what Tick-Tock Clock is all about. The tactile machinery in this place is unbelievably memorable and hits you like a boulder from DK Mountain, which feels epic every time you transverse down it just to get blasted to the top again. We then move on to our last stop at Grumble Volcano. Considering this whole course takes place next to an active volcano, I thought it'd be fitting for the end. Lightning Cup. Wario Coliseum hasn't been remade yet, which is a shame since it's a course unlike any other, having only 2 laps because of its sheer length. Yoshi Valley is also strange considering it has the most alternate routes to choose from out of any Mario Kart course ever. Bowser's Castle doesn't shy away from punishing players by banishing them to slower routes so they fall off on certain sections, which I find pretty cool. To top it all off, Rainbow Road's back for more and it's boasting one of the longest turns in the entire series. A splendid end to these 8 cups. Now I'll talk about these next 4. What's different about these is that some courses may have vehicle transformations and some won't, so think of them as a mix. Resort Cup. Let's take a trip. We can't go anywhere unless we have some form of transportation, so we'll have to leave either by plane via the stunning Sunshine Airport, or by train via the exciting Super Bell Subway. The ride will be long and arduous, but we'll have Waluigi Pinball to keep us occupied, considering that the idea of racing through a pinball machine is a crazy enjoyable concept that was executed perfectly. Sooner or later, we'll arrive at Pinna Park from Super Mario Sunshine. The track players will race on will follow the same path as the roller coaster in said park by using anti-gravity. There will even be Mecha Bowser in the background just to add to the spectacle. In the same vein, let's take a look at some of Bowser's castles in the Castle Cup. Although not too menacing, his one from 64 has eerie vibes since you drive through a garden just to be met with boiling lava seconds later. There's also this huge thwomp locked up in a cage that really makes you wonder why he was put there in the first place. Bowser's Castle from Double Dash is a solid rendition that doesn't do anything too crazy besides having a mechanical version of himself spewing out fireballs at players. His castle from Wii upgrades his mechanical self by making his large fireballs the centerpiece that racers have to maneuver around. Although a little too much time is spent outside the actual castle, his one in 3DS supplies lava pillars underwater, which is too cool to pass up. Galaxy Cup. First stop, Toad Town. You'd start at the entrance and race along as you see plenty of landmarks and unique toads. It's a peaceful place for all. Not much can be said about Rogueport though, which is teeming with trouble around every corner. Here, you would start at the docks and make your way up to the plaza and then the rooftops. You'd then be treated to a view overlooking the rest of the town before gliding down into a short underwater section that loops back up to the docks. Egad's Garage would be a wacky race involving plenty of gadgets serving as obstacles to throw players off. For a stellar end, we'll take the illustrious Comet Observatory, a masterpiece of architecture that'll have you blasting through launch stars and gazing upon scenery that would rival even that of Rainbow Road. Speaking of which, we got an entire cup dedicated to this magical roadway in the Rainbow Cup. Straight off the bat, I'm letting you know that there will be no 64 Rainbow Road here. It's a long, boring course that's only silver lining is its music and fireworks in the background. So here's what we'll do. SNES Rainbow Road will start us off, and DS's Rainbow Road will follow it. However, DS Rainbow Road's music will be replaced with 64 Rainbow Road's music. We'll also add in the fireworks from 64's Rainbow Road for extra flair. Wii's Rainbow Road is up next, and it has tons of diverse sections to keep things interesting, which are only topped by the Rainbow Road to rule them all, the one from Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS. This one spans 3 parts and is a joy all the way through. You race along the rings of planets, see change humps on the moon, and fly through the stars to your goal. It's the most powerful Rainbow Road there is, and absolutely deserves to be the grand finale of all 12 cups. Now, let's play on them. Deluxe will be used as our base here. Regardless of the course you're playing on has vehicle transformations or not, everything here stays the same. Holding 2 at the start gives you a boost. There's drag, ultra mini boosts, tricks, no wheelies, and no snaking. Regarding tricks, there won't be the kinds from Mario Kart Wii since I can't think of any way to include them in all the courses without them feeling forced. So courses like Bowser's Castle and Koopa Cape may be edited to look a little different. Here's a change I want to make. Originally, you could hold down a button to check your rear view mirror. The problem with this is that it took up your entire screen, which doesn't make that much sense when you think about it. So now you'll have a small rear view mirror in the bottom right corner of your screen that displays what's behind you, which is a lot more convenient. You'll have the option of having the screen on automatically or having it activated by manual input. In addition, if you do prefer to have it cover your entire screen, that'll be an option too. It's item time! Players can carry 2 items, and double item boxes will pop up in set locations. No coins as items!
No coins as items, please!
Had to get that out of my system. Coins on the track are fine. The more coins you get, the faster you go. That's great. It adds an interesting dynamic to the game. But giving players coins when they hit item boxes will almost always result in disappointment, so let's get those guys out of here. But now that we've done that, we've run into a problem. Since players can hold up to 2 items and coins are no longer a thing, that means first place is guaranteed 2 items to defend himself, instead of a chance at only 1 item to defend himself. Add in the super horn, which blocks blue shells, and no one's gonna catch up to first place. Changes need to be made. You won't be able to drag items behind you. If you want to protect yourself at the rear, then you'll need to throw your item back with proper timing. This adds a layer of skill to the game, which is way more satisfying than the formulaic structure of just holding down a button every time you get an item for easy blocks. In terms of effects, I'd like to compare what getting hit by a blue shell looks like in Double Dash to what it looks like in Deluxe. The difference is obvious. Getting hit by one in Double Dash is a lot more of an impact. The camera flies up with you, and the whole screen jolts. These little effects also take place when hit by other items like green shells and red shells, which is definitely the way we should go for this game. Now that we've gone over the foundation for items, let's talk about which ones we're including and their specifics. Banana, triple bananas. When run into, it won't fully stop momentum, it'll just make players spin out towards the direction they were going when they hit it. Green shell, triple green shells, red shell, triple red shells. Slower speed when thrown behind. Blue shell. Players that are behind should receive items that actually help them advance. A blue shell that only strikes first place doesn't do much good for those that threw it. So, the blue shell will stay grounded on its pursuit for first place. It won't go in an exact straight line, but instead it'll swerve from side to side, which increases the chance it'll knock over other players on its way. Once it's within range of its target, it'll grow wings and strike down upon the lucky winner. Fake item box. The only difference will be the upside down question mark. Nothing else. Bob-omb. Mushroom, triple mushrooms. No blur, more speed lines. Golden mushroom. The timer is really helpful. No blur, more speed lines. Mega mushroom, bullet bill. Blooper. Obscures vision, makes vehicles more slippery. Lightning. Zaps everyone, turns them mini, and lets them get run over by other players. Superstar. Just a little more of a speed boost. Fire flower. Boomerang flower. Super horn. Boo. Grabs a random item from a player ahead of you. Battle mode. For Balloon Battle and Bob-omb Blast, you'll be given 2 options for how they're played, survival or points. In survival, when you lose all of your balloons, you're out. But like in Mario Kart 64, you'll still be allowed to harass opponents by running into them as a bomb. In the point system, when you lose all of your balloons, you're still in the game. You just lose points as punishment. We've also got Coin Runners, Shine Thief, and Renegade Roundup. No changes there. Battle stages. Here are the 12 I'm including. They're all solid arenas built for destroying your friends. Props to these stages in particular for changing up the formula. Tilt-a-cart. The entire stage is tilting back and forth, which makes for some wacky fun. Block Plaza has pieces of the stage falling down as time goes on, and just like it, Delfino Pier slowly gets flooded as time goes on. Yeah, that one's my favorite. Alright, we've covered the main chunk of what the game is, so let's blow through the smaller details. Mario Kart DS's mission mode was a blast to play, that'll come back. The play stats that Deluxe shows off are neat, but in this game, they'll have just as much detail as Smash 4's play stats. The info screen in Deluxe is adorable, I love the artwork, so that's staying. I like a combination of Mario Kart Wii's menu structure and layout, but with Mario Kart Double Dash's art style. Something I can't decide between these 2 games is which menu theme is better, so I'm being selfish and setting an option for that. For a series like Mario Kart, I think the best title screen would be one that shows as many characters racing together as possible. So the one I'd muddle it the most after would have to be Mario Kart 64's.
Welcome to Mario Kart.
I get the best feeling when I hear him say that along with the memorable tune, and that's not something I'm gonna give up. What I've shown you is my dream Mario Kart. Sure, I could have theoretically included absolutely everything anyone could have hoped for so everyone was happy, but like I said at the beginning, there are limits when it comes to making a game, and I wanted to see what I could come up with while keeping those limits in mind. I'm sure this video could have easily been an hour or a lot longer had I covered all the details that go into making a game, so forgive me if something wasn't covered with as much care as you wanted. We're not done yet though, we need to decide on a title. This would be the 9th Mario Kart, so we could just say Mario Kart 9, but that's lame. I was thinking something like Mario Kart Definitive, but instead of definitive, it'd be definitive.